I'm always looking for a way to save money and optimize my smart home with gadgets, and I think I've found one that almost none of you will have thought of, but will make such a difference to the warmth of your home that you're going to want one in every single room. And it's this, the SpeedComfort radiator fan. And although that might sound like something from a JML advert, introducing the desk bike from STU'S. Now you can cycle an office together. This device magnetises to the bottom of your radiators and helps circulate the hot air around your room, increasing your system's efficiency by 100% and potentially reducing your heating bill by up to 22%, which is wild. So today, I'll put them through their paces to find out if the claims are true or if they are just a JML advert gimmick. Now, for some context, I'm currently renovating a house and I've been looking at a ton of ways that I can make heating more efficient. And it's widely considered that one of the biggest ways in saving money on a heating bill is by placing thermal reflective sheets behind your radiators. Martin Lewis, from Money Saving Expert, even recommends this method. The point of that is to stop heat coming from the radiator being lost straight into the wall and instead reflected back into the room. But there's only so much that can do in respect to directing the heat back into the room. Often you'll find that the side of the room furthest away from the radiator is the coolest because the radiator is exactly that, a radiator. It radiates heat rather than circulates it. There are devices that you can buy that obviously do a far better job than a radiator at circulating the heat. And one of the ones that I've used in the past has been the Dyson Hot and Cool heating fan, which makes your hot air essentially distributed evenly throughout the room with the circulation of air. But what if you're already using central heating and you don't want another form of heating? Perhaps you don't want to pay additional cost for electric heating either, which, let's face it, at the moment is eye-wateringly high. Well, that is where these little devices come in. The internal fans will start pulling the cool air through your radiators and pushing the warm air out at a much faster rate, creating an airflow throughout your room of hot radiator heated air. To fit them, it's super simple. They have a non-invasive magnet system which can extend or retract to fit underneath pretty much any style radiator. And for those where it might not, perhaps if you say have some fancy schmancy artisanal radiator, you can either use hooks or legs to get it in position underneath or on top. I love its adaptability for any width, and then in respect to length, you can actually run several of these units in a row, the entire length of a radiator, with a maximum being 5 of these to cover around a 2-metre radiator in length. Now, out of pure interest, I wanted to see what else it could fit to, and if you've got the right radiator device, it looks like you're able to fit it on oil radiators too, although they don't explicitly mention this on the SpeedComfort website. So I might be being a bit naughty here and doing a bit of a no-no. But once you've got it on and in position, there's 2 further things that need plugging into it. One of which is a power supply. Now, obviously, it can't have batteries in it, which would be extremely unsafe considering that it's actually attached to the radiator. So this is the solution that they've gone for, a AC plug to plug it in. It doesn't draw a particularly large amount of power as it's only running a handful of fans, but it does require you to have an outlet within reach of a radiator, which may be a problem for some. I would have loved to have seen some kind of inbuilt thermoelectric control unit which would power the fans by turning the heat from the radiator into energy. This is quite a common technology with things like wood-burning stoves as an example, where you get these fans that sit on the top and have a thermoelectric converter in it, which turns the heat from the wood burner into electricity to power the fan on the top to circulate the heat further away from the wood burner. It should be possible because, as far as I'm aware, radiators can get up to 80 degrees on the surface, and thermoelectric fans usually start working at around 60 degrees. Maybe on average, radiators generally don't get hot enough for this. I'm not sure, but it's just a consideration that at least you'll need to have a nearby outlet if you want these to work. Now, The second thing you need to plug in is a little temperature sensor, which also magnetizes to the side of the radiator. This essentially allows the fans to automatically react based on the temperature of the radiator, which is set essentially to turn on when the radiator's temperature reaches 33 degrees and then turn off if it falls below 25, which ensures that these are only on when the radiator's on. Now, I had some reservations when I first found out about these. I was a bit concerned about the potential noise increase. One big benefit of the radiators is that, bar the expansion and contraction of the metal during heating and cooling, they run pretty much silently. I was concerned that if I added a bunch of fans to the underside, it might be a noisy affair. Well, I'm pleased to report that they're actually whisper quiet, especially when underneath your radiator. They're pretty much inaudible. You can see here that the lowest decibel it reaches when off is around 33. When the fans are on, this goes up to a lowest decibel of just 35, an increase of just 2 decibels, and the monitor is right next to it. So, now they're on and running. Do they actually work? Well, I scanned the furthest corner of a room with the heating on both before and after the radiator fans were installed. The results speak for themselves. The image on the left is without the fans on. The image on the right is with them on after just 30 minutes. And you can already see that the temperature of the walls above and along the ceiling and on the other side of the room are already a few degrees warmer. This is surface temperature, however. So, to get a better idea of the ambient temperature, I stuck an Aqara T-Vox sensor in the top corner away from the radiator, and I couldn't quite believe how much the ambient temperature increased by having the fans on. Look at that! When looking at the graph from the app, you can see a sudden surge in temperature as the fans begin to circulate the air much better than just the radiator on its own. Ultimately, the proof is right there in the pudding. These are such a simple gadget that has an immediate physical impact, and that gets me excited. But we probably need to talk about the cost and the savings to see if it's truly worth adding these to your smart home. When it comes to running costs, according to SpeedComfort, they cost just 26p per year to run. So that's a negligible increase to your bill. But the figures that SpeedComfort state for energy savings are quite spectacular. Now, I mentioned at the start that with these added to the radiators, they can heat up a room around twice as fast because you're circulating the hot air. Normally, in large rooms, you might find that you have your heating on for longer to compensate for the areas of the room that are furthest away from that radiator. And that's because it simply takes longer for that air to heat up. And even then, once you feel that the room is up to temp, you'll often find that there are sections of the room a degree or two cooler. By circulating the air constantly, you're creating a much more evenly heated environment much quicker. And because of this increase in efficiency, SpeedComfort suggests that you can save up to 22% on your heating bills per year, which far outweighs the 26 pence it costs to run. Although, I think that certain people might be able to increase the efficiency of their system even further. For example, I found that in my living room, where the sofa is currently committing a feng shui war crime and sits right in front of the radiator, these make a massive difference because instead of the sofa blocking and soaking up all of the radiating heat, it will now push the heat up and out into the room a lot more. And I think I've ended up increasing the efficiency of that particular radiator a lot more than the stated 2 times that SpeedComfort suggests. Now, as a disclaimer, it's very hard for me to verify these numbers. I can only really tell you from my experience and from obviously the thermal cameras that it does indeed seem to heat up quicker, and adding a fan increased the temperature of the other side of the room by a few degrees. So it's evidently having a positive effect. But there's one other thing to factor into the cost, and that's the initial outlay of the product. Now, a single fan setup on its own will set you shy of just £50, which is an initially high expense for a couple of fans, I'll admit. But with the savings calculated in there, it should end up paying for itself within the first year of ownership. And you know me, I love gadgets that pay for themselves and then afterwards start essentially printing me money. You just have to look past the initial outlay and calculate the long-term savings into consideration. And long term, it will be, because they actually have a 10-year warranty according to their website. So factor in at least 10 years of energy savings and you're absolutely quids in the long run. Now, I'll link them below so you can take a look at these for yourself. But I really do think that these are a fantastic little gadget with huge benefits that will save you quite a lot of money in the long run. Yet, there are a few things that I would love to see in future iterations of this device. One I've already touched on is that I'd love to see some kind of thermoelectric generator, if that's even possible, of course. And secondly, I would love some form of smart home control or integration. At the moment, these things are just automatic operation based on the temperature of the radiator, which, let's face it, you probably only need that. They come on when it's hot and they go off when it's cold, but I'm a sucker for seeing things on my smart home's dashboard, especially ones that I've retrofitted to my home. So being a smart home enthusiast, I'd love some form of ability to control them, or at least see their status as part of my smart home. Perhaps even a calculator to work out how much money I've saved. But despite not having smart connection, these still feel like a really valuable addition to my smart home to make it even smarter. I mean, they do technically work on their own automation, so they are automated. And that's kind of why I wanted to feature them. At the end of the day, actually smart controlled or not, these are perhaps the smartest thing that you can add to your central heating system, other than a thermostat boiler or smart radiator valves to get the most out of your already existing heating system. Trust me when I say that it will pay dividends in years to come, and all year round too. Even when you're using your heating less as summer approaches, they're still a useful device to have, because even if perhaps you only put it on for an hour in the morning to bring the house up to temperature, with these it will help distribute the heat more efficiently and evenly regardless. And you may find that even in the warmer months, you'll still save a penny or two. But what do you guys think of the SpeedComfort radiator fans? I'd ask you if you think it's worth adding to your home, but the evidence clearly answers that for me. But still, do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be replying to everyone over the next few hours, so make sure you pop down there and say hi. And if you found today's episode helpful in deciding if the SpeedComfort radiator fans are for you or not, don't be afraid of hitting that thumbs up and subscribe button. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.